Hello, Father. How are you?
Hi, Charles. I'm well. How are you?
Living the dream. Uh, Busy day here. Got 20,000 steps and a new blister, so you can't complain.
20,000 steps. That's soft for you. Didn't we get 30,000 one day? And
Yeah. Well, the blister's not actually from the 20,000 steps. Yeah, we did get 30. No, 20. I try to average between 15 and 20. But I was wearing Crocs because it's
well,
a beach
okay.
area where we
There's so
are.
much wrong with that. Stylistically, practicality. You're a Crocs guy.
I'm not a Crocs. I don't wear Crocs a lot. I only wear Crocs near the water or sand because I don't like sand in my shoe because it never goes out.
Fair.
But with Crocs, you can wash them. And so I was wearing them because we were walking down to, there's a beach kind of like area behind us. And then went for a longer walk. And so I think that's what caused the blister, not the 20,000 steps. It's the new footwear because I very rarely go without socks and very rarely wear my Crocs. So that's what caused the blister. So you can call it's okay.
People have been
There's
trying
no
to get
need
me
for
into
panic at
Crocs,
the moment.
and I can't think of a good reason. Yeah.
It's there's some good Crocs. Mine is blue with like a white border at the sole and then a red stripe. It's very Americana. So yeah, we'll see. You can get some black ones, match your Galero.
Yeah. I. No, I'm trying to think of the shoes that I wear. I was gonna say I don't have many shoes, but I do. Well, I have like two pairs of black shoes that I wear as a priest, and then I have my running sneakers and like recovery flip flops, moccasins, bean boots.
Recovery flip
Well,
flops.
like they're like the ones I had when I was a soccer player. They have like a foam, and they're called slides, and so I wear those like after a run or around the house, or it depends.
When you have to go get the mail. Yeah. And then you had moccasins. Are these boat shoes or do you have moccasins in addition to boat
Moccasins in
shoes?
addition to boat shoes. This is going to be bad. My public persona of a simplistic life.
You have a lot of shoes for your day off, right? Is what it sounds like. So, well,
Well, then yeah, I have to have a separate
that's
pair of sneakers from my running sneakers because they can't.
for when you're sneaking.
Yes, you sneak. Well, you call them tennis shoes, but you don't play tennis in them.
You at one point you probably did, but yes. Well, you don't play polo wearing a polo shirt or always golf
Speak for
wearing
yourself.
a baseball cap. You always play baseball when you but anyways, so yeah. But speaking of habits, we have some atomic habits.
Were we
Have your
speaking of
transition?
habits? Maybe in your head.
Well, I should have made a joke about like my sandals being part of like Franciscan habit, like are your shoes part of your
Ah,
habit? And you're like, well, sort of. And then yeah, and then you'd say, yes, I guess I don't really have a habit. I'm a priest. So speaking of habits, we're talking about atomic habits. So our listeners can pretend that that was a much more insightful transition versus
yeah,
just
you're a little slow today. We'll blame it on the jet lag and lack of sleep and um,
it's also yeah, it's 7 o'clock at night here. So but
but yes, I recently read a book. Well, I had technically the book was read to me because I did the audiobook version of it, and I finished it maybe a few months ago. I could check my Goodreads to see how long it actually was, but um, actually, I think this is an ad. Maybe they should sponsor us. Libby. It's a free app where you can get audiobooks or ebooks, and you just put in your library card. Everyone should have a library card. It's. Did you ever watch the show Arthur growing up?
yes, because having fun, it ain't hard when you've got a library card.
So this is why we're friends. It's a influential. One of the first things I did when I got assigned here was I went to the library and got my library card. Yeah, so I listened to this audiobook called Atomic Habits, and everyone has probably heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, I don't know what you're doing with your life. It's over 10 million copies sold, number one time New York's bestseller by James Clear, who is like the habit guy now. I'm holding it up for those who are watching on YouTube. This is what it looks like. I have a hard copy version of the book, but I never got around to reading it. Audiobook was so much easier. But this is nice because it's one of those books that it was really good to read as an audiobook because just as far as like convenience, it wasn't boring. It was read by the author itself, which is always fun. And then this is good because he's got like lots of charts and stuff, which you can kind of go through. But he also has a website. Like it's like a lot of like for an image of this, go to atomichabits.com slash. And that was I was doing that during the audiobook when he was like saying that what the URL was. I was trying to guess what the backslash was.
Because that's what you should get out of an audiobook is guessing backslashes. So
It was a fun little game.
it's fun. Yeah.
This book
Well, yeah.
this book was excellent. I really enjoyed it. It was there's a lot of like these self-help books out there, and they kind of tell you like why you should change. I think they're very poor at saying like how you should actually implement change. Like they're like motivational or like you could do it. There was a few books that I had to some self-help books that I was reading that I abandoned, like the 5 a.m. Club.
Oh, come on. You can still get you on that one. So
It was just a little too Pelagian, and like it was a weird style. I think it was like a fictionalized self-help book. So he like tries to tell like the story of like three people who are like, you know, listening to this guru go to this rich man's island. And like the main point of the book was like wake up at 5 a.m. Which there's some points to it, right? Like Arthur Brooks talks about this a lot. Like the more you can wake up before the sunrise, work out and do something, like you've won the day already, and like it's motivational. And so there is merit to waking up early and doing something, and then you're ahead of everyone else. And so like there's like this like self thing, but like the Pelagian aspect of it, the heresy of Pelagianism is that we earn salvation through work. Which is contrary to Catholic teaching. Salvation is a gift.
So he said, if you wake up at 5 a.m., you'll get to go to
he didn't say
heaven.
that. It was non-religious. It was like this Indian guru who's like, it was like if you wake up at 5 a.m., like your life will just get better. And that's not true. I've been starting to waking up earlier, but this book, The Atomic Habits, was much more helpful in doing that. I have to. This last week has been kind of rough, but I have to get back into it. But yeah, I think this book is very good because it's very concrete, very practical, easy steps to follow, and you get to kind of choose the habits that you build. He's not telling you which habits to do or not to do, but how to break the bad ones.
It's a how book, not a what book. So he's not saying get up at 5 a.m., but if you want to get at 5 a.m., this is how to do it.
Right, exactly. And so I think that is very helpful. And I think too, like a lot of this, like there were some things in this book that I was like, this is good spiritual points. Like these are things that are Catholic. These are things that a good Catholic would be doing. Like none of this was contrary to our understanding of the human person, our understanding of excellence. I don't know what James Clear's religion is, but I mean he's pretty close. And so I thought this was a good book. It's secular, 100%, but it's easily translatable to like building spiritual habits or your individual identity. So this is the thing. I actually even preached about this at New Year's and the beginning of Lent. And so we can just dive right into it. Is he says the number one reason why people don't follow through on habits or can't break bad habits is an identity statement. So like you don't think you are someone who does that thing, which is it's action follows being, right? So my actions follow who I am. That's a scholastic principle. I think it's Aquinas and Jerry Seguin's essay. So it's the analogy he uses is the study of kind of people who try to quit smoking. So the more successful person is someone who's offered a cigarette and says, "No, I'm not a smoker." They don't identify as a smoker anymore, so they don't do what non-smokers do, which is they don't smoke, and so they're more likely to have that firm resolve in denying a cigarette. Versus someone who says, "I'm trying to quit." That gives them more leeway, and they start to rationalize. It's like, well, one cigarette doesn't hurt me. I am trying to quit, so one cigarette is less than what I would normally do, and so they're more likely to take the cigarette that's offered. So the identity statement is key, right? Like I'm someone who wakes up in the morning when someone's struggling to be a morning person, which is like, and my parishioners who go to the 7 a.m. mass know that That's something I struggle with. Or like I'm a runner, or like, I do what that kind of person would do. And it makes it easier when you think of that. So I think the Catholic principle of that is like, I am a son or a daughter of God, right? Like I have an inherent value and inherent dignity. So that's kind of a broad identity statement. We can always make it more concrete and more personal in the faith. But like the question follows is, what does someone who lives a faithful life, who is loved by God, how do they act? Right? They're not disobeying the commandments. They're not mean to other people, right? And so that kind of helps. So I was thinking for Lent, to my parishioners, it was like, okay, or even for a New Year's resolution, is what is preventing you from being or receiving the love of God? Like, what are the things in your life? And what are the obstacles to even thinking of that identity? And then from there, you can more easily sort out what it is that you need to do, if that makes sense, Charles.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting point. First, I would say the opposite, like your actions form who you are, because there's that sort of parlance that like your thoughts become your words become your actions become who you are. We think to a certain extent, because like if I identify as a Christian, but I don't think or act or do anything like a Christian, well, okay, there's a disconnect there. But I was in your head thinking of some habits that I'm like, well, I'm just whatever that doesn't do that, right? And so I'm the person who, you know, I don't know, the things I get up early. I'll find some habit to drop. So maybe, eat fried food or something. But I'm just someone who doesn't eat fried food, right? Because that like how Tom Brady, like he treats like sugar, he calls it poison. Like he just says, I can't eat that. That's poison. Like in his head. I don't know if he internalizes it at restaurants. They're like, do you want some cake? No, that's poison. Okay.
You're gonna kill me.
Yeah.
No, but that's a big point. And yeah, no, there's that famous saying, which is not wrong, right? What is it? Words follow actions, actions form habits, habits forms character, um, or actions form virtue and vice, virtue and vice. Yeah. So the the thing with that is that's good and it's true. It's kind of how things progress, and I think James Clear kind of operates a little bit under that model. But there's an ancient philosophical principle that says, "In the end is our beginning." So we have to understand what we were made for in order to start, right? So we, as Catholics, believe that we were made for heaven, and so that becomes the guidepost to how we get there, right? If I don't know what my being is for, if I don't know the meaning of life, then I don't know how I should live my life, and then that gives us more permission for licentiousness and immoral behavior because um, if there's no purpose, or if the purpose is contrary to um, what we say as Catholics, and it's easier to fall into bad things. And so to know my identity, to know my purpose, that gives me the roadmap to how to get there. So forming habits. So having that identity statement, I think, is essential to knowing then how to get there. And he's not saying like, okay, like I'm a morning person. Now the next day waking up at 5 a.m. is like the easiest thing in the world. You have to build up to it, and you have to create that habit, so eventually it becomes second nature. You're not thinking about it. It doesn't become difficult, but it's just something that you do because it's who you are.
No, it's a good point because I remember, and I think the identity statement is sort of like changing your identity as a certain extent. Because it also reminds me of an anecdote I heard from a friend who said um, something like, I'm not an organized person. Like that's just who I am." And like so he just and then someone said to him said, you're choosing not to be an organized person. Like there's this, oh, I can't get up early. I'm not a morning person, right? And I think yeah, to your point, Father, it kind of works both ways. Like there's some people who yes, like what you say, being translates into action or something, or
Action
and then you
follows
quote
being.
twice. Action follows being, right? And so if you default to this is good. The habit is you're identifying to a positive state, but if you're taking the negative and you're saying, "Oh, I'm just disorganized," or "I'm always late," like that's just who I am. And my friend said when he was told like, "No, it's a choice," there was like a light bulb clicked in his head. He's like, "Wait a minute, like." I am not master of my destiny, right? I mean, because obviously there's cooperation with grace and everything, but to a certain extent, how we choose to, right? interact in a certain situation, how we choose to behave, what we choose to do. That's a choice. And so I think there's like a mentality that some people get that like, oh, I'm a victim of this, or oh, they're doing this because of that, or I'm just not gonna, I'm not good at math, right? Like that's what it is. And then like you figure out, wait, you are, you can be good at math. It just takes, I always think that like success, maybe this is very Pelagian, success in the temporal affairs, so not spiritual affairs, is a function of like hard work and talent, and hard work being like time and effort. Because I think there's are certain people that yes have a natural disposition, whether it's genetics or how you were raised, or oh yeah, I was always playing tennis, so it's I don't remember having to learn how to play tennis, right? Versus at some point you had to learn that, of course. But and so like but the example, I'm not a math person, right, or I'm not good at math. It's like we have to put more time and effort into math, right, to be good at it. Or I'm not a language person, I just can't learn that, or I can't learn an instrument. And it's like, well, yeah, there's some people who are very have a natural kind of inclination. But and there's, I think there's reading about this, and maybe this will be another book some other time, that like it takes however many 8,000 hours to master a topic. And so the idea, and I think this is what we're going to talk about through this whole episode, though, is like what are the habits that can help you actualize it. So you have your kind of innate God-given talents, and then, but you have to, requires more than just what's easy. It requires, right? Sure. Didn't you say like we have to do our duty by starting with doing what's necessary or something? So there's a much more eloquent Churchill quote. So, but there's a series of like a list you're going to walk us through, Father. Is that right? Or
No, I mean, yeah, no. In response to that, there are like human limitations, right? Like, so there are certain things that are maybe just beyond, like, like there's a ceiling to my level of ability to play basketball, right? Like, I'm not gonna be in the NBA, but I can be really good at free
you're already
throws.
internalizing. You're already saying, I'm not going to be good in the NBA. Father, if you try hard enough, Isaiah Thomas was a little guy and he played in the Pistons. So you can
Right.
do it.
But we do have gifts and talents, and we have like the raw material that kind of does need to be shaped and formed. And so this is where James Clear talks about kind of also like the problem is like, so the identity part of it, but then it's like the time, like it takes time to build habits. And so he talks about, before the 4 laws of habit building, he talks about the science of how habits work. And so he says there are 4 steps, right, in habits. They all proceed through 4 stages in the same order. There's the cue, there's the craving, there's a response, and there's a reward. So the cue, he says, the cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. It is a bit of information that predicts a reward, right? So our prehistoric ancestors were paying attention to cues that signaled the location of primary rewards like food, water, and sex, uh, the propagation of the species. Today, we spend most of our time learning cues that predict secondary rewards like money, fame, power, status, praise, approval, love, and friendship, or a sense of personal satisfaction. So, we're constantly anticipating a reward, and whatever that reward values. There's the was it Arthur Brooks? You sent that quiz. Was it from him? Yeah, it's his little game that we play. He plays, right, like to find out like what your main priority in life is. Do you remember it?
Oh, yes.
The
Yes.
four
Like, yeah,
things.
what did you ultimately worship? Yeah. Or something. Yeah. What's of
Yeah,
highest worth to you?
we can play that game one day, and talk about it because it's fun. It's very revealing. You and I are motivated by
Yes.
2 different things. Um,
Evidently.
so then cravings are the second step, and that's the motivational force behind every habit. Right? Without some level of motivation or desire, without a craving, a change, we have no reason to act. So like we have to. There's like a desire to do it, right? So he says, you don't crave a cigarette, you crave the feeling of relief it provides. You're not motivated by brushing your teeth, but rather by feeling of a clean mouth. You do not want to turn on the television, you want to be entertained. Every craving is linked to a desire to change your internal state. So we're anticipating the reward, and then the craving is how we think that reward will come about and how that steps. Third is response. It's the actual habit you perform, which can take the form of a thought or an action. Whether a response occurs depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. If a particular action requires more physical or mental effort than you're willing to expend, then you won't do it. Your response also depends on your ability. It sounds simple, but a habit can occur only if you're capable of doing it. If you want to dunk a basketball but can't jump high enough to reach the hoop, well, you're out of luck. I'm not going to dunk. I can't jump high, but I can work on jumping higher so that I can dunk, right? So there's a step to it, but it is a challenge. And so I'm not motivated to dunk. And then finally is the response delivers a reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward, and the response is about obtaining the reward. We chase rewards because they serve two purposes. They satisfy us and they teach us. So he says the habit loop is cue, craving, response, reward, and then kind of we just cycle through those habits. And so he says all behavior is driven by the desire to solve a problem. So the problem phase is cue and craving. I want something, I need it, and then the solution phase is the response and the reward of how I get it. And so he gives some examples. So just to run over some, he goes, your phone buzzes with a new text message. That's the cue. Craving, you want to learn the contents of the message. Response, you grab your phone and read the text. Reward, you satisfy your craving to read the message. Grabbing your phone becomes associated with your phone buzzing. So it's also too, like, I think like the habit of picking up your phone when it buzzes, right? I don't think we would think of that. At least I have never really thought of that as like a habit, but it is. It's something that we just kind of do without thinking, which is kind of the definition of a habit. Another example is you walk into a dark room. That's the cue. Craving, you want to be able to see. Response, you flip the switch. Reward, you satisfy your craving to see. Turning on the light becomes associated with being in a dark room. So that's kind of the examples that he gives. So his 4 laws are associated with these 4 this 4-step process of how we build a habit. So the cue, he says, make it obvious. The craving, make it attractive. Response, make it easy. And the 4th law, reward, make it satisfying. So this is how we build good habits. It's good. The whole point of this podcast is you don't have to read the book if you don't want to, but you should. And it will give you more information than I could. But hopefully this is like... Also, I'll recommend James Clear is on the Diary of a CEO, and that podcast I think replaces the book. Like he talks about. So the first thing he tells you to do is like, what are your current habits, and track them. Like, so, Charles, what are some habits that you think you have?
I get up early. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. When I'm in America right now, I am on vacation, so I'm not picking up at 4:30. So yeah, and it's habitual. Like I do it, yeah, every day of the week. Set alarm 4:30, get up, and then go and run like between 2 and 4 miles, depending on what the app says in various
We are
fashions.
slaves to the AI Run app. Also, not a not a paid
Exactly.
sponsor.
Stop saying these names until they pay us. So. Yeah, so that's a habit. I think it switched to the 5 a.m. So, um, and it was tough because I always wasn't really rising. I was never a 4:30 a.m. guy until I think you and I challenged each other to do that, which also is an interesting example when we talk about accountability buddies, because the fact that when the alarm will go off at 4:30 and like I can go back to bed for still like another 45 minutes or whatever before I have to really go anywhere. I was like, oh, but Father Lominster's getting up and he's sending texts and he's running. And I'm like, I can't be outdone by him. So competition drives a lot of innovation as well.
Well, yeah, that's one of the main steps, but
Am I jumping ahead?
yeah, that's the 4th law, but that's good. You're anticipating it. See, I think a part of this is like it's one of those things that is natural, and I think we inherently know of like what will make us do something, but to have it so spelled out so clearly and so simply it's what's really good. So
Edward Banfield, who's a economist from the 70s, wrote a book, The Unheavenly City Revisited, which I think we should do an episode on with a former CUA professor, retired, who talks about that. But he uses the example of how you kind of encourage these habits, because realizing that your actions have consequences is really important, because then like delayed gratification, we could talk about, right? You do something and then you don't get the benefit from it right away, right? Versus like, oh, I eat a chocolate, I feel good, that's fine. But if I do that enough, I gain weight. But if it's like I deprive myself of the chocolate, I don't feel good, but I haven't gained weight and therefore I'm staying in shape or whatever. And so recognizing that, and Edward Banfield kind of goes through some examples of the way the parents can kind of instill this. And yeah, they're kind of like, he talks about on a train or not, on a bus, that there's a mom and a child, and he says two moms, one mom can say, hold my hand, and or they both say that because you're on a bus and you're moving and they're both standing. The mom says, hold my hand. And the kid says, well, why? Or doesn't hold the hand. And the mom says, hold my hand, hold my hand. Says it over and over. Maybe gets firmer. Bus stops, kid falls over, right? And maybe there was the snaps like, okay, I should have held the hand. But the other example he proposed with parenting is saying, uh, all right, one mother says, hold my hand, why? Or doesn't say, no, hold my hand or you'll fall, right? Like realizing, wait, there's a reason why I'm doing this. Like, don't touch the stove. Why? Right? Like, I got to touch the stove to prove that it's, like to see why I can't do it. Whereas like, touch the stove, you'll burn yourself and it hurts burning really, really bad. And you don't have that pain and damage your cells, right? Like realizing your actions have consequences. And so you do it in little things. So that way in big things, you can be like, hey, to study for a test, I got to spend all this time reading, even though I'd rather play Xbox with my friends,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Or
a good
something.
parenting model too. Is like there should always be empathy, um, an explanation, and then the directive, right? So the example is always that I've heard is, um, I need you to take out the trash. Why? Because I said so. It's like, okay, well, that's not convincing. But so like a
For you, it's
yeah,
especially not convincing.
fallacy of
So
authority
it's
there. And then, but the proper or a more healthy dynamic would be, hey, I know you've had a really tough day and you're enjoying your video games, but I'm not always going to be here for you. I want to teach you responsibility, whatever the reason is, and so, therefore, I need you to take out the trash. And so that's a little bit more understanding. But so yeah, so we want to make the habits obvious, and so um, this idea of saying what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and where you're going to do it, right? So I will do something at this time in this location, right? So like I will go for a run at 4:45. I'll do 2 miles. Or like I need to like take my vitamins in the morning. So it's like I will take my vitamins right when I wake up in the bathroom or wherever I have by the kitchen sink where I have a cup of water. And then we want to make it obvious. You put your vitamins out the night before, lay them out, have a glass there ready to go, so that and that's step 3. But because we want, I know you want it to be as easy as possible. So make it super super obvious. So like I will do this at this time. We did this with our kids in the middle school program here for Lent. Is like I will pray the Our Father every night before I go to bed at my bedside or something like that. Say what prayer you'll say, when you'll say it, and where you'll say it, because then you're more likely to do it, right? Because it's spelled out rather than like right, like I want to run. It's like okay, well, when, where, how much, right? Because then it becomes so the app is helpful because it gives you kind of that direction for you. And it makes it obvious like okay, I have to run 3 miles today, and now you just have to determine when am I going to run those 3 miles. um, and then he calls it habit stacking. So a way to introduce a new habit is to stack it with a habit that you're already doing. So the example he gives in the book is like I want to meditate for 10 minutes. Okay, well, what's one thing that I'm already doing in the morning while I'm making my coffee and drinking my coffee? It's like, okay, after I make my coffee, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes, and then you can sip your coffee while doing it. So you're adding a new habit with a habit that you're already doing. And so it kind of builds off of that. So habit stacking. So like your habit stacking, our habit stacking is I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go for a run. So we're already doing one thing and we're already waking up every day. Two birds. Yeah. So it's habit stacking. And then after that, it's like after I meditate, once that habit's established, then I can like read the newspaper or check my email. or whatever it is, right? Because then you just go from habit to habit to habit. Or as St. Paul says, we go from grace to grace. And then, so that's the idea of habit stacking. And he says, yeah, design your environment to make the cues of good habits obvious and visible. So if you want to take your supplements, put them right in front of you where you see them. Like if you're doing like a prayer, put your prayer book by the coffee machine. Or like somebody who says like, I'm going to read before I go to bed, put the book on your pillow. So you have to physically pick it up. The book is in your hand when you get into bed, so that it's there. So it's obvious, it's visible, it's unavoidable. So that's law 1, make it obvious. Any further comments before we move to law 2, Charles?
Yes. So no, I think for law one, the Q, right? Yeah, because the corporate world we use what are called like SMART goals, which I think you and I've talked about before. And SMART is because I'm smart and everyone uses them as smart, but it's also because it's an acronym, which means specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound. And so I think to like the Q, it seems like to be the first, and correct me if it's wrong. It's like you got to set your statement, right? And so that's where like a SMART goal would come in, and you do this in corporates where you're like, all right, we need to be quicker in our responses, right? And so, in emails to clients or whatever. And so that could be a goal, but like you could just say, all right, be quicker. And that's a goal. And then it's like, doesn't get actualized, right? But if you say, smart is you say, all right, specific, we are going to respond within 2 days, right? To every email that comes in or 2 business days. So you're like, okay, so that's your goal. And it's specific because you're saying what you're going to do. You're going to respond to emails. It's measurable. You're saying within 2 days, and you have to make sure that you can actually measure what you're saying, right? And so how you track email responses, right? Or you have tick marks or something. It's actionable. It's something that you can do, right? Versus like, oh yeah, we need to be more, something that you can actually have a say in, like versus a goal, like world peace. Like we can all peace begins at home, right, Father? But at the same time, there's certain things we maybe have less direct influence on, and realistic. Yeah, I think that gets to me. Actionable and realistic are always kind of the same. Actionable is like you can take a tangible step, but realistic is you can take a tangible step to like walk 50,000 miles a day, but the first step's good, but that's not really realistic. And then time bound. So a smart goal might say like, we are going to aim by, the end of Q1 to respond within 2 business days or something. Right. And so that's your goal, and you set that down, and that really helps frame it versus like, we're going to be quicker. So at least that's the way I think of the Q. And I guess like, is it right that they say to write it down? Because I was like skimming the PDFs you sent over, and there was like a little graphic of a pen and a paper. And so is that part
Yeah,
of this?
and that's also just like good human psychology. The when you write something down or even like print it out and put it in front of you, like if you can see it, like externalize it, then and when you put it in writing, it's much more concrete. And so that's also just like the mindset of it. The church version of SMART goals is concrete, measurable, and doable, right? So it's concrete, it's very specific, it's measurable, I can quantify it, right? So I think I've said this before on the podcast, or I've said it elsewhere, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but like a priest who gives you a penance, like do a good action, it's like that's not very measurable. I always tell the story. It was like for once I had a penance when I was a kid of do something nice for your mom, and so I was like doing something nice for her, and she was like, "Why are you doing this?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trying to do something nice for you." She's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Because I want to do something nice for you." She's like, "What do you want? Like, why are you doing this?" And I was like, "It's my penance." She's like, "Oh, so now it's your penance to do something nice for your mother?" And yeah, she had a point. And so I don't do that, but it's like spend 5 minutes in prayer before the Blessed Sacrament, or think like, so like when it's done, like I've had priests like go contemplate the love of God the Father, and it's like, Father, like how do I know that I've accomplished that penance? Like, do I have to do that for the rest of my life? My brother got a
You'll know.
my brother got a penance
You should.
um, that was like there was no time limit on it, and so he and I were talking about it with my sister-in-law about like does he have to do this every day for the rest of his life now? And I said, as a priest, not your brother, I free you from this penance because that's ridiculous. It was like, yeah, offer your life to God. He's like, once every day, multiple times. It's like, I was like,
You
yeah,
should do it every time, but that's a different thing. Well, you look at the medieval penance books, right? It's very, very measurable. It's very precise. It's, if this, then
Yeah.
this. So, oh, you were talking during mass, bread and water for
Yeah,
six
that's
months,
the
right? It's like,
manualist
okay,
tradition.
that's
Was kind of the input output system. The only problem with the manualists is that not once in any of their things did they ever mention Jesus Christ or a relationship with God. It was all uh, punishment and stuff.
he's an optional extra.
So
They write
yeah,
manuals,
like Saint Jose Maria, one of the main motivators of this podcast, talks about how he says, when people tell me that they want to be saints, I laugh because, like, what does that mean? It's like, what are you going to do? How are you going to become a saint? Like, what does a saint live like? So it's like, it's a good desire to want to be a saint. It's the desire we should all have, but like, what does that look like? So that turns to law two, which is make it attractive. This is kind of what we were talking about with like the delayed response. So he says use temptation bundling. So pair an action you want to do with an action that you need to do. So like I don't really want to run all the time. It's like not the most exciting thing in the world, especially if like the only option, like in the winter here now, it's like below freezing. It's like I don't want to go outside. The treadmill would be even worse to run like 3 or 4 miles on. So pair it with something that you want to do, with something you need to do. So it's like I want to listen to this audiobook or this podcast, so I'm going to listen to it on my run, or I want to listen to this new album or whatever it is, so I'm going to do it on my run. It's kind of something like that. So something that becomes you want to do helps you fulfill what you need to do. Like I want to drink my coffee every morning. Without it, I'm a miserable person. So what's something that I can do while I'm waiting for the coffee to brew, so that time is not wasted, but I'm also accomplishing something that I want to do. So that's like habit stacking with the temptation bundling. Oh, here we go. It was law two, not law four. He's join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. I think that's the idea of like an accountability buddy. Why run clubs are so popular, right? People who want to run join run clubs because, or like Strava and the not a paid sponsor. Like the kudos, like I live like Charles and I just kudos back each other. It's like when I get 4 kudos, I'm like, wow, people are noticing. I have like 10 followers on Strava. I'm private. I won't accept anyone. I'm embarrassed by my times at the moment, but so you can find me, but I might not accept you. So that idea too of like, and we see this I think in work. When you're surrounded by people who are not motivated, it's kind of a buzz killer. And so when you're surrounded by motivated people, this is what we were talking about too in the episode we recorded yesterday, is this idea of like competition. Competition should build everyone up. But if you're around people who are just like lazy or think your habit's silly, like it's harder to do versus like, oh, I know Charles is waking up at 4:30. I know he's, gonna make fun of me if I don't wake up at 4:30. That's not why I'm doing it, but it's like motivational. It's like Charles is running, I'm gonna run. This is normal. This is what we do. And with my brother, that was kind of when we were running my first marathon, his like third or fourth. We did it with a group of people, and we kept like the training logs and updates for the weeks and stuff. And we've done this with like Lent challenges, or just like Sober October has become like a big thing. It's like, how is this month going to be better? And I'm going to create a group of people, a community to motivate me to continue to do this, because doing it alone is no fun. But having someone who builds you up, and that's also like the church, like we should all be pushing each other to be saints. We should all be motivating. We shouldn't really be upset at people who are like struggling. Like the idea is like, that's the evangelization, is reminding them that they're good, that they're capable of good, and that they're loved. And so like to build that up. So I think we see this in some parishes where there's like this like culture of like superiority, and then it kind of becomes like an enclosed thing. Like people go and it's like, oh, I don't fit into your mold, or I don't do this. This is the criticism of trads, but also I think it can be a criticism of like a very charismatic parish. It's like, if you don't do what we do, you're not welcome. And that's not really what a parish should be. It should be building up everyone to being saints. That's the role of the parish. So that's the idea of community. And he says to create a motivation ritual. So just do something you enjoy immediately before a difficult habit. So it just becomes associated with like that good thing. It's like, I can have a bar of chocolate, but then I have to do this after, right? So it's like,
Oh, yeah. Not I will run and then I can have a bar of chocolate. You could say like, I'm going to do chocolate and then I'm going to go
so it's
run.
both, and because he does talk about make it satisfying. It's like, so that you can have, there should be a reward at the end, but like a motivation ritual. So like, I'm trying to think of what motivated me to like run. I think it was just like playing music to kind of get me amped up or something, or
Mhm.
kind of just like, or even like texting you sometimes. It's like, I'm going for a run. What are you doing? Like that motivates me.
Yeah. Yes, no, it does. Because I took some time off the running, and yeah, you definitely felt a little bit of, you inspired me to get back. Because again, it was the group. Because when I run on and off over my life, not that much long, but like, there were a couple times I've tried to take it up as a habit. And I think it became most pronounced when it was a group. It wasn't just me doing it by myself. And even though, yes, like many of my friends don't live in the same area. And also there's the appeal of being able to say, oh, I'm a runner, which I don't usually say. So I say I'm a mediocre jogger, but
The hardest
yeah.
part about running a marathon is finding a way to bring it up in every conversation. It's like episode 10, episode 12 or something. We finally brought it up. And I'll admit I've been inconsistent with my running, but the fact, like, what keeps it going back is like, no, like, this is something that we do, right? It's bigger than me. And also the fact that, like, so one of the big things is when you're training for a marathon is everyone asks you like, what's your why? Like, why are you doing it? And I was just like, I was taken advantage of, in a bet, and I got overly confident. And now I kept saying I could do it so much that I had to. And so it's like, I didn't really have like a why or like a motivation. And that just made it very difficult because I'm fighting against like an anti-motivation kind of thing. And so just recently, like someone said, it's like, you ran 2 marathons, like you're a runner. And so that changes, like, no, I'm a runner. Like, I will go to the treadmill if I can. Like, I will run in the snow. I will run in the rain. That's what runners do. It's not necessarily fun, but it's like what my community does. It's what my friends are doing. It's what I want to be. And so that's also made it more enjoyable because it's not like, I'm not a runner, why am I running? But it's like, no, like this is good. And then you get the runners how you feel better after. But that's whatever. So the third law, now moving right along here, is make it easy. So reduce friction, decrease the number of steps between you and your good habits. So this is also part of making it obvious. So one of the things that I started to do was like the night, like before I go to bed, this has kind of become like the ritual is like check the weather, lay out the running clothes and the sneakers, fill up a bottle of water, and put it all out. So as soon as I wake up, it's right there. I don't have to like then wake up like, oh, okay, is it snowing? It's like, I know when I wake up, like this is all I have. All I have to do is put on my clothes and change and step outside. And then so that makes it so much easier. Like if you want to be someone who prays more, it's like, okay, like just put your prayer book or your rosary or something right there. So like you have the pamphlet, everything that you need is like already prepared before the designated time that you do, which becomes a habit in and of itself. But it's easy. So less steps, you want to get rid of it. So this is like prime the environment so that future actions are easier, right? Master the decisive moment, optimize the small choices that deliver outsized impact. So it's like, well, tomorrow it's going to rain. And so like, that's like a big decision. Like, do I want to go out to the rain? It's like, well, I already put out my raincoat. So like, I'm already prepared mentally for it. I apologize to everyone that all of our analogies are examples are running, and I hope this doesn't isolate everyone. But that's what Charles
Well, I have a good
go.
analogy for making these. This is our only hobby that we have. So, because I always had the goal to pray, well, not always had the goal, but I had the goal is like, I'm going to pray the Angelus every
Mhm.
day at noon. Right. And so, and before I would be like, okay, well, it's noon. Okay, I'll take out my Magnificat, open up to the red section. I don't have it memorized because I'm not a seminarian like you were. So, and it's like, and then I would like do it like 10% of the time. It was pretty bad. Or I'd kind of catch myself like, oh, wait, it's 12:40. Oops, lost that. And so then I put a reminder in my phone. So it buzzes like noon, play the Angelus. And still then I go and get the book. And still sometimes it was like, oh, I don't have my book with me. And I'm like Googling pray the Angelus on the metro or something. And it's like not connecting. And so the third step to make it easier is I learned this, you can put a screenshot or an image with a reminder. So I have Pray the Angelus and I hit it and like to click it, it popped up and it's like, oh, and there it is. And I can, read the prayer and tick the box. The only complaint is it doesn't know your time zone. And so it's noon Eastern. So I just got the notification at 7 p.m. here to Pray the Angelus. Or when I'm on other work travel, it's like it buzzes at weird times. And I'm like, what's that notification? Someone, and then like, oh, Pray the Angelus at 2 p.m. or something. So I'm like, okay, I've got to make sure to update that. But then that's right, make it easy. So I should
Yeah.
be updating it.
So
But
no, yeah,
yeah.
make it easy. That I do the same thing, but I have an alarm on my phone that goes off at noon. So wherever I am in the time zone, it's noon wherever I am, and then it says that you can name the alarm too. So it's Angelus, and so there have been times where I'm in the car and I just pray the Angelus. I have it memorized, um, and then so that's easier. It's always easier to memorize things, and then or like there'll be times where I have a conversation with someone and it's like, do you want to pray the Angelus now? Um, which I can get away with. I don't know. You're in a business meeting. It's like, can we pray the Angelus, everyone? Also, I'll give you this freedom. If it's like 12:15, 12:40, 1 o'clock, right? Like, it's okay to pray the Angelus. The idea is that you're still praying it around the time. So, but that's, yeah, alarms, reminders. Um, that's the idea, right? So, and this is part of Make It Easy. He says, automate your habits, invest in technology and one-time purchases that lock in future behavior. There's so many habit building apps out there. A lot of them are free. You can use the alarm, the reminders on your phone, so that it does become. You can use these apps to plan runs, to track like water intake if that's like the habit you want to build. Hallow, again, not a paid sponsor. I'm sorry. One day is they you can set timers on like the prayer stuff that you want to do. So it's like, so, I'll say the one reminder I have on Hallow is at 7 p.m. time to do the word, which is their version of Wordle. Um, and so I do that sometimes, not every day, but sometimes just clear the notification. So you have to just make it easy, and the automation. That's one good thing about smartphones is that it makes it really easy to remind yourself to do certain things at certain times. Um, and then so he
That's why we used to
says,
have the bells, right? Because in the monasteries and churches, it was like, oh, Angelus bell.
yeah, ring the hour,
Want to
and
pray the
then
Angelus with me?
well, the whole town would stop and pray the Angelus wherever they were, because as long as you could hear the bells. So it's a good habit. It'll remind me at the end. I'll share a John Henry Newman thing that this will sum up why we do this.
I think you should say now because as
No,
we're
that's
gonna
fine.
forget
It'll be a great way
why
to end the episode.
we brought it.
So he also says use the 2-minute rule. Downscale your habits until they can be done in 2 minutes or less. So he says this seems really simplistic, right? But it seems like impossible to try. The example he uses is working out, right? Like I got to go to the gym and work out for 30 minutes. Like sometimes it just seems insurmountable. He tells the story of a guy who went to the gym, would work out for 2 minutes and then leave, and he would just do that. And then eventually, after like 2 weeks or whatever, he's like, he built the habit of going to the gym already, and then so he's like, well, I'm here, I might as well spend extra time. And then so he's like, break it down to 2 minutes. So it's like, I mean, I'm a big fan of this, right? Like if you want to pray more, go to the church for 2 minutes or stay for 2 minutes after mass. 2 minutes is, and mindset is not that long of a time. And if you could do it for 2 minutes, you can do it for 5. And then eventually It's like, oh, I have a habit of staying after mass and saying a prayer of thanksgiving or doing something like this. I can do it for 2 minutes. And then eventually you want to stay more, you end up staying for more. And then that habit becomes, it's like, it builds. And so it's okay to do things in incremental levels, right? Like I'm going to pray for 2 minutes before bed. I'm going to pray for 2 minutes when I go, or whatever it is. I feel right. Yeah. So the simpler it is, the easier it is, the more likely you are to build up from it. I think one of the IBM guys who works in the parish, I was talking about building up habits and goals, and he said this is a principle we had at IBM is small successes. So you want to be able to achieve small successes, and that motivates you to do bigger successes. Whereas if we set up a goal that, I think this is the A in SMART, right? That's not accomplishable, then I feel like a failure and I lose my motivation. I don't do it. But if I constantly am achieving small goals, then that builds me up to just go a little bit further, a little bit deeper into it.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing is like leading indicators, which I think that's getting to, um, where you set yourself metrics that are, or like your goal may be like, we want to be profitable. It's like, okay, well, what do you have to do to be profitable? You got to sell products, right? And so it's like you set goals like revenue goals or units sold or cold calls or whatever it is, meetings, right? You have to set your goals like, I'm going to have, 10 of these meetings a week, right? Or whatever it is, and set those kind of baby steps. Yeah, because then you can accelerate it further. Going down because I remember being told once by a priest that like the devil tempts you to be ambitious, like overly ambitious, maybe is the correct word, put a little adverb there. Because he talked about this one guy was like, I'm gonna start praying more, so I'm gonna do a holy hour every day. I'm gonna pray all the decades of the rosary, not even just the five that are assigned to whatever the day, but like all of them. I'm gonna go to mass, I'm gonna do all this. And it's like, okay. And then you get to like day two, and it's like, this is taking a lot of time. Like, build yourself up, right? And so kind of slow and steady to where that is. Yeah, I think it's a really good point because you get frustrated, like, oh, I didn't run 20 miles this morning. I'm a failure. It's like, oh well, I put my shoes on and then I took them off. Like, okay, we've made progress. And so yeah, it's and then like for me at least one of the motivation is like I've run halfway, so I have to run back. Right. Like I'm not on a treadmill where I can just kind of pull the plug, which I've done sometimes before. And that's psychological torture because you're like, I could at any moment stop this miserable, running and staring at my reflection. But the fact it's like, well, I ran 2 miles that way, so I gotta come 2 miles back, and there's nothing there to gonna get me there than me. So it does kind of help.
And like, yeah, don't diminish your accomplishment. Sometimes the hardest part is just putting your shoes on, getting out the door. Like, and if you could do that for a week, then you can go a little bit further. And so it's the idea of like, don't just have a habit that is crazy, but have a habit that will build into a further habit. And it's okay to build. We build back better. Um, so then the fourth law is make it satisfying. So this is just human psychology. It's like Pavlov's effect, right? Use reinforcement. Give yourself an immediate reward when you complete your habit. And so I think that's pretty obvious, right? Like, do something that you like after, like you get a treat when you go for a run or when you work out or after you pray. Like after you pray, you can go and have that pumpkin spice latte or whatever your cup of tea is. Maybe it's a literal cup of tea. He says, make doing nothing enjoyable. When avoiding a bad habit, design a way to see the benefits. So it's a little more difficult, right? Is like I'm now watching TV. It's like, okay, but I can be doing something else. And like, oh, this is productive. Like I don't have to respond to my emails anymore because I did it. And so you have free time. So you have to maximize that. He says use a habit tracker. So, I mean, I think that works for some people, not everybody. But it's why they use sticker charts when we were children, Charles. I don't know if you had sticker charts for your kids, but it's like, oh, I filled up my sticker chart for the month, right? There's something satisfying about like, this is done, right? It's like all these apps that track you. It's like, oh, you skipped a day. It's like, oh, no. It's just like, oh my gosh, yeah. That owl is the most aggressive thing that I have on my phone. But it's good. The streaks like help.
Yes, no, because you want to keep the streak going. But they did a study and they showed like I mean, Duolingo is a whole case study we can do on that. But that like the notification you get that like I'm going to stop reminding you for a while, like that one they said is the most successful notification they have. It's like I'm giving up on you. We'll see you later, right? It's like, oh no, the poor duo owl. I'm, like, and it's that sort of response to like I'm not going to let this thing down as anthropomorphic owl. But also I think yeah, being able to set other rewards for yourself and then keeping an owl happy, which it kind of sounds a little like some sort of weird religion. Um, but yeah, I think it's good, and it's setting yourself goals. Like for me, what I love doing is like I'll make to-do lists, and then the best thing, and I put a little box whenever in my notebook, like I have all these notes from meetings and stuff, and then I'll like there's an action I'm like, oh, I got to follow up on this or I got to do that. I'll put that down, and then I put a box next to it, and then when I tick the box, it's like you get a dopamine hit. It's like eating a Hershey bar. And it's like I just live to check boxes. So yeah, it's I don't need any other pumpkin spice latte to keep me satisfied beyond just ticking a box.
There you go. And then the last thing he says for making it satisfying is never miss twice. If he's like, if when you forget to do a habit, make sure you get back on track immediately. I think he has a saying in the book, um, a habit missed once is a mistake. A habit missed twice is a broken habit. And anyone who's gone to the gym for like months or years knows like when you miss a day, it gets so much harder to do it the next day. When you miss 2 days, it just gets harder and harder. So the idea of to go back immediately and to kind of ride that success, because yeah, missing habits is like it's such a motivational killer. And then so just to wrap it up too, he says how to break a bad habit, you just inverse the laws of building a good habit. So instead of make it obvious, make it invisible. You charge your phone outside of your room, right? If that bad habit is scrolling on Instagram before you go to bed, right? Put your phone away and don't put it in there. Avoid it. Avoid temptation. Lead us not into temptation. Make it unattractive. Reframe your mindset. He talks about the book of like how to quit smoking, and it's just like a whole book of like all the negative and adverse effects of smoking, and it's been widely successful and popular. But it's just like you have to realize how bad something is for you to like want to quit it. It's a principle of Aristotle, right? That like we don't do evil for evil's sake is his idea, but we do it because if it's a perceived good, right? And so I have to realize that this thing that I think is good is actually really harmful, and I have to believe that and buy into it for me to turn it away. Make it difficult instead of make it easy, right? Increase the friction, increase the number of steps between you and the bad habits, put locks on things. So you have to like go through certain steps to end up doing it. And then you kind of like lose motivation to get it done and make it unsatisfying. So the accountability buddies here are like, help you watch your behavior. And it's this idea of like, I'm going to make fun of you if you do something you're not going to do. Right. And there's like a little bit of shame in like telling someone like you did something bad. And it's first of all, like speaking it is also what helps you break habits. This is why confession is so important. Going to a priest, there's like the psychology of saying what you did, bringing it to the light helps you realize like, oh, this is embarrassing and I don't like saying it. The best way to stop saying it is to stop doing it. And so, yeah. So, but there's no shame in the confessional, and like we don't like shame. The devil shames, but like a little bit of embarrassment is good and helpful. And then we also want to motivate that. Use it to motivate. Right? There's hope. He also talks about this guy who creates a habit contract. So like make the costs of your bad habits public and painful. So like he has people who have made contracts of like, if I do this, I have to pay $100 to this charity or to this pool, or I have to take someone out to dinner. So like there's an actual consequence that bites in the thing. So that is that's a huge thing. And so why do we do habits? I've remembered. So I have this thing on my desk for those who are listening. It's a picture of John Henry Newman, one of my favorite saints, and a prayer that he wrote. And he says, if you ask me what you are to do in order to be perfect, I say, first, do not lie in bed beyond the due time of rising. Give your first thoughts to God. Make a good visit to the Blessed Sacrament. say the Angelus devoutly, eat and drink to God's glory, say the rosary well, be recollected, keep out bad thoughts, make your evening meditation well, examine yourself daily, go to bed in good time, and you are already perfect. And so this isn't the Pelagian idea of if you do these things, you're perfect, but it's like these actions will change who you are. So action does follow being, but like what is the kind of person that does these things? These are the actions of a saint. And so when, and C.S. Lewis talks about this too, like our actions can influence our being, right? He says if you don't love someone, act like you love them, and eventually you will come to love them, right? So it's like pray and have a relationship with God, even if you feel like you don't. And then after doing it for a while, you will have that relationship with God. You may not feel it, but you will experience it. You will know it. Same thing with us and running. It's like running for a long time didn't feel like a runner or didn't experience being a runner until someone said like, no, like you're doing it. You already are. It's like, oh, you're right. And so that changes the mindset. So building good habits forms us to who we are, who we want to be, but it also is the fail safe of when I forget who I am or what I want to be. It keeps me on track to those things. And so that's a little motivation there from St. John Henry Newman.
Oh, it's great. I really like his point on how you can inverse it, right? It's not just, oh, here's how to set good habits, or here's how, but you can, yeah, you take what makes a good habit and then undo it, right? And so, yeah, it's a good point. Like, yeah, like I delete the Instagram app, right? So I did that for Lent. Like, I said I'm not going to use Instagram for Lent, so I deleted the app, so it's invisible. I can't see it, right? And I guess Easter is kind of like the pleasure reward. Like, all right, I'm going to do Lent because I get Easter candy and jelly beans and a anthropomorphic rabbit at the end, right? And so, yeah, there's a lot of that. And also, I think in the spiritual life, right, like delayed gratification is so important. But also, like, obviously, there's gratification. And so, like, yeah, running on the treadmill, I'm thinking, like, no one likes running, right? At some point, you forget you're running, but on the treadmill, it's very hard, at least for me. And so I'm always like, well, I'm going to like having run, right? I say that in my head. Like I said, this is miserable. You're running in place, but you're going to like in 30 minutes when it's over. And that's true. And it is. When it's over, I'm like, that's wonderful. I'm never, ever doing anything again. So, yeah, these are all really good points, Father. And thank you for sharing them with us, these fine atomic habits. So, I'm sure our listeners can benefit from them in the spiritual life, business life, all of life, right? There's always habits we need to be successful. So, you want to close us out?
Yes, as always, like, subscribe, share, follow us on Instagram. It's White Collars Podcast. And until next time, work hard and pray harder.